Hey Ravens fans, we are here at the NFL Scouting Combine, and today I'm excited to sit down with Ravens Director of Player Personnel, George Kokinis. George, this isn't really an introduction because you've been with the Ravens for forever. You're going on your 33rd season in the NFL, but this is the first time that we've done this interview here at the Combine, as Joe Hortiz has gone on to the LA Chargers. So just to kick things off, can you share with the fans the work that you've done behind the scenes for years in helping to build and construct this roster every year?
Well, a lot of it, I've kind of done everything that a scouting assistant and a area scout and an assistant director and a pro director and a player personnel director. So I've kind of gone through the gamut of the whole thing. So understand what everybody has to do and all their jobs, and you just try to make an impact where you can. I mean, I think that's what any scout wants to do, is impact a team and see if they can offer an opinion to get a player on the roster and see them produce and help the team win.
So whenever there's turnover, and as I mentioned, Joe's going on to LA, what's the process that you go through and stepping into a slightly new role, I guess, and also the team around you, and to kind of offset that loss and to make up for it?
Well, I think this time of the year, I mean, it's kind of cross-check and still evaluation. The coaches are going to get into the evaluation phase, so a lot of that's going to fall on me as well in terms of getting up to speed with the college game and this year's draft. And I think our scouts have done a tremendous job, and David Blackburn and Mark Acevedo, in terms of coordinating all the stuff and all the information that goes into the draft meetings. We came off of meetings the last 2 weeks, and then the scouts do an unbelievable job in terms of helping Eric prepare the board and get it set up, preliminarily, and we can go from here.
So obviously the focus here at the Combine, we got the field behind us where the players are going to go through their workouts over the course of the next few days. When you look at this draft class, what stands out to you from a big picture standpoint about this class?
Well, I think with any draft and wherever you're picking, and no matter what round, I think you try to see where the clumps are in each round and try to gain value and see what can produce and serve a role at some point in the draft and to help your team. As far as the first round, everybody's always concerned about the first round, and I think the first round is a little bit about runs. Really, the quarterbacks are always talked about early, and then there's certain positions like the tackle position and the corner position and the receiver position, and where those runs come in the draft, you just got to pivot off of that. Like last year, the run on receiver, I think, happened about 20 with Njigba, and then Johnson went to the Chargers, and then we picked Zay, and then Jordan Addison went to Minnesota afterwards. So that run was there. Now we're picking 30, so we get to assess the board, see what's available, what best fits us, in terms of our scheme, what we want to do, what kind of person the player is, and we get to pick from there.
So in terms of the Combine, I'm curious how you marry what you see on the field during the workouts with what you see on tape and what you see from a college production standpoint. How do those all kind of work together in this process?
Well, I think anybody that knows me, they know I love watching offensive linemen for whatever reason. And then when they come out here, everybody seems to be disinterested, so to speak, because they're not running in the 4.2s and the 4.3s. But I love watching the linemen work out. I mean, you get to see what you don't see on tape a little bit in terms of movement, and so some people would say, well, if you're not seeing it on tape, what's the difference? But that's the point. You don't see it on tape. So sometimes there's different offenses. They get the ball out quick. You can't even really see the linemen move around. Like, how do they recover? The bubble screen. Sometimes you see them always in a 2-point stance, and here you get to see them in a 3-point stance. How do they step, come out of that 3-point step with a 3-point stance, and come out with power and be able to turn the corner? So there's definitely things you can see out here in the workout that you don't see with linemen. So I really like that, and of course the defensive backs, everybody wants to see how fast they are, but there are times on tape where you can go 4 or 5 games where you don't see the ball thrown at a player. So how do you really assess their ball skills? So something, through the Combine, you can see how the guy approaches the ball, how soft his hands are, is he confident in his hands, can he track the ball, that sort of thing. And sometimes it just helps you fill some gaps in the evaluations.
Well, I know another big piece of the equation are the interviews, and you actually just walked out of the interviews that you were sitting down with a handful of prospects this morning. What are you looking to learn about players as you go through the interview process?
Well, you have that 20-minute sort of window, but I think it really, just confirms what some of the scouts and their opinions and from their sources on what type of player, what type of personality really. I really like to just get a knee-jerk reaction on their personality. Do they fit in our locker room? Can they communicate? We get them on the, watching tape, and can they take criticism if they did something wrong on tape? Like, how do they react to it? Are they defensive? Are they humble? Can they laugh with themselves? And do they fit in with our group? We got an unbelievable culture. John's created such a great environment, the coaches, the development we have on our players. So you really just get a feel and match what you maybe know about them through reports to what you see when you just meet a guy for the first time.
I'm curious, in the college game, we've talked about this over the years, but in a lot of ways, especially some of these conferences and schools, spread out offenses and pass heavy offenses. It's not a totally different game from the NFL, but there's different nuances. How does that affect how you're able to scout? I mean, we spend so much time talking about receivers, especially, if you drafted 3 first-round receivers the past 5 years, and so, we talk about it from a receiver standpoint, but also I got to believe that impacts how you evaluate an offensive lineman, for example.
Well, that's, that we talked about that a little bit earlier. Offensive linemen, a lot of these spread formation teams are like in a 2-point stance, and you're watching the offensive lineman, you can't even see the footwork because the video is going out to the bubble screen all the time, so you can't really see how a guy starts and stops, as a lineman, is he finishing blocks, that sort of thing. And really from a defensive standpoint too, like if it's a, pure pass rusher and the guy's has to get 1 second to get to the quarterback, you're not really seeing that often if the ball gets out of their hands. So you got to evaluate what you can evaluate and then fill in the blanks. But, in that case, like, does a defensive player turn and run and go chase the guy down? So you just look for other things that may present itself and then just grind through all the tape and see the different situations and see if you can evaluate everything you need to evaluate based off all the games that you get.
So the draft is 2 months away, and there's so much excitement around that, but free agency is before that. That's 2 weeks away. And I know that that's kind of an underlying piece of the combine. There's conversations and agent meetings and all those things are taking place. How do you use this time to just get ready as an organization? And pro personnel has been an area that you've been really focused on, throughout your career. How do you prepare for the pro aspect of it in free agency that's right around the corner?
Well, really, we've been preparing since the beginning of the year. I mean, we split up the teams and who evaluates what team, and we've had our free agent meetings in terms of the personnel department. We've distributed, after our season was over, we distributed a list of our coaches that were sort of interested in this type of guy or this sort of position to evaluate those. And then as the new league year comes and, some cap casualties occur, we'll evaluate those. I think most of the grades are in, if not all of them, by our personnel department. But if we need to distribute that to the coaches, get another peek at them. Hey, does it fit what we want to do? Will he fit in our scheme? And is it something that we want to go after, if that makes sense? So a lot of that process is going on. Eric's on top of it as well. We've had our meetings, and we'll see how it plays out.
How big of a smile did you and Eric get across your face when the salary cap came out and it was $255, jumping $30 million this year?
Yeah, I think Nick Matteo and Eric might have done a high five belly bump kind of thing in the hallway. So, and I know Pat Moriarty's part of that. So, certainly that side of the hallway was all geeked up because it gives them a little freedom,
Yeah, totally. And then lastly, just when you leave here, what is the next step in terms of building that final draft board? I know there's meetings, when do you guys have your kind of knock down, drag them out meetings where everyone stands on the table and advocates for who they want, and how does that process go?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. The coaches are just, getting going on their positions. So certainly hearing their evaluation and how a player fits is important. Getting with the coordinators and seeing, what what are their needs, not just their wants, because every coordinator wants every position, but what are their true needs, for what they need, what they want going into the season, and try to fulfill that. We have the pro days coming up. You have the 30 visits where you can bring a guy into Baltimore and give him another physical, and the rechecks occur. So there's a lot of information still out there, but it's a great challenge. Like you said, it's 33 years. It's still fun, and we still get a chance to impact the team and help this team win.
Awesome, George. Well, thank you so much for sitting down. Can't wait to see what you guys end up doing in free agency and this year's draft.
Appreciate you having me.